Okay, good morning. It is Wednesday, October 26th, 2022, and I am on my Peloton and framing things a little bit better maybe. Trying to deal with this hair. I just don't want it on me, but if I put it above, it gives me a nicer line. Wearing a bra. I'm a rather busty girl, but I don't really believe in bras. Which may strike you as weird, but there's some part of your lymphatic system for women goes under your breasts. So it's pretty interesting. Not putting it, and I was a Victoria's Secret girl, and so not putting those underwires on. And now when I'm out and about in my day, I just wear a tank, but kind of realizing for this, probably needed, these are really soft bras. So I will link that because I know now how to do that. Not perfectly, but you can at least see what I'm talking about. It's a great bra. So it's soft, no underwires. This shirt is from the Da Vinci exhibit, which they're doing amazing things now. It's kind of like a living, you're kind of walking through, so you get more of a sense of his time in life. And he died unfulfilled, like he had made a difference. Isn't that crazy? So what does it mean to be awake on Wednesday the 26th? I was listening to my upload, which I really didn't upload till last night. I will tell you, I will upload in the morning. I think there's far less people doing it here. I know that, all times of the day, it's crazy the statistics on how many things people upload. But, so I couldn't let the natural egress happens, which is I just kind of let the Venn diagrams dictate what's going to come on next, and it mostly seems to be about programming, what I need to be doing, kind of stuff that I'm learning, so pretty interesting. But because you should not drive and play with your phone, I hit podcasts on my dash, and what came up was the Past Life Awakening Institute with Mark Beal, and I will link that. And it's amazing the episode that it loaded, because it was right what I was talking about yesterday, or kind of right where I am. It met me right at the moment in time that it needed to, and I think the universe is pretty amazing that way. But how did I get to his podcast? Like I said in an earlier episode, I had read Many Lives, Many Masters by Weiss, and that is now linked, but I can link it again, since people probably are not going to go back. Less people that find these, the better right now. But no, I don't really need that universe. So he was interviewing somebody by the name of Barb J. Angelo. It's episode number 25. And I didn't find, it wasn't referenced in Many Lives, Many Masters. Just somehow it started, read that book voraciously like most people do, and I think it's a pretty normal stop on your journey because he's very famous. A lot of people have read it. But this episode almost entirely talks about it. So that was pretty interesting. So I listened to it 2 from work. I'm going to finish it up today. And it's interesting because they specifically talk about age in this episode and waking up. And I think I've alluded to this before. One of the interesting things is I look and I go, why are we all of a certain age at this point in our journey? Well, I think where I'm falling is pretty normal for the group of people I'm in. We spent most of our life on this planet. We've done some really interesting things. When you listen to Weiss and any of the people that I will talk about, and Barbara Angelo, their lives have there's remarkable similarities. Stuff started happening at an early age. They questioned the status quo. But I'm big on realizing the people that come before you and the importance of not being a giant. So I think there's a whole group of people now that are probably about my age, they're in their 5th decade of life, that are starting to finally come to terms with their life, what they've done, and where they want to go. And I think that again, this is just a foundation that's being laid for everything to come. So there's enough people in everyday life, there are enough teachers, so you don't have to look very hard or very far to figure out what's going on. Like Maureen St. Germain, all these people, anybody who's showcased on Gaia, with probably the exception of Matthias, who has led an incredible life and just started out listening really early. I think that's going to happen more and more. But anyway, because I think waking up is hard. It's like coming out of sleep. Kind of like this morning, I was like, oh, it was 4:11, and you know, I don't turn on many lights. I stumble to the kitchen, I get my coffee, lights go on. Things are just making sense. I think that's kind of parallel to this actual waking up process, the actual waking up process. So, I suspect, like I said, there are a fair number of people right where I am. I read many lives, many masters, even though I knew about it for a long time. I didn't read it till I was ready and I was at a certain point. And some things that probably really set me up for it, and I was ready to listen to the information in that book, was I had, I don't know what you want to call them, visions. I call them memory burn. They're not dreams. We're going to spend some time talking about that probably next week. I was going to do trauma next week, but I think a natural egress is into what is going on when we sleep, just with me. Not like, I mean, right? People spend their lives studying that, but where am I at with that right now? So there's this reality that we live in, 3D, which, you know, we don't really hang on to from day to day. There are patterns and movements. So that's pretty interesting. Another type of trippy experience was I've had, I don't know about you, but when I've been super sick with pneumonia or whatever, and I'm medicated, trying to stop coughing and stuff like that, and have taken so much, and I'm sick. I think that's kind of an interesting state in and of itself. And I just remember, like, it felt like jumping to light speed, like that, the lights and the tunnel, and I just remember, oh my God, everything that you've read about life being worth it, and it was a much different perspective than I have now. This is so cool, this is what it's all about. But I couldn't hang on to it. I couldn't really tell you much about it. I just remember the feeling or the state of bliss, which I've heard called samadhi. These are like living pictures, but you're in them. So maybe visions, I don't know. They're just, you don't forget them, I will tell you that. It's not even like the hypnopompic, which is coming out of sleep. I looked that up. Hypnagogic is going into sleep. But they're these both kind of like twilight times where I think you have access to subconscious, conscious, reality, non-reality, whatever. But anyway, these almost always have occurred in a meditative state during the day, and it's like being in a picture. Now the first one is Egypt, and I'm in this temple, and it's, so you know how we think of the pyramids now, but it's like they open up, like the three sides, right, open up, and moonlight is coming in. And it's not moonlight like we know. It's almost like it's the sun, but it's very definitely night, and the colors are so vivid. It reminds me of like stained concrete, what we would call stained concrete now, and I know there's water. And I'm aware of sound, but I can't really hear it, and I would more call it like a harmonics maybe, but you don't notice the absence of sound. And that's just started recently for me. I'm starting to hear sound, not voices, sound. And you're acutely aware of it because I don't think we typically associate the dream state with sound. So that's one. And I'm actually what apparently is called a temple slave. And I had never heard of this until I talked to someone, but apparently they would take, and there's not a whole lot on it. Last time I Googled, which was probably about 5, 6, 8 years ago, they take women and they put them in the temple. And it's actually considered an honor. And I think you're caring for the temple, caring for whatever's going on. And that's a whole trippy experience in and of itself. But I just remember carrying like a really interesting vase and looking up and just being struck by the beauty. And it's, I don't know if it was, kind of feels more like night, but it was maybe at one of the hypnagogic or hypnopompic times of the day. And it never changes. It's like I go back and it's like the picture starts to move and it's the same image or hologram, maybe is a good way. The other one was, so I'm pretty sure I spent some time in Egypt. The other one is Rome. And it's, I feel like I'm on top of a mountain. It's daylight. It's open air. There's columns, so Greek, Rome, whatever. And I'm on this slab. And there's a sheet around me, around my breast, around my lower region, and it wraps around my left leg and is hanging off this slab. And it doesn't seem like it's an uncomfortable slab, but it's definitely a slab of cement. And there's this gentleman sitting beside me, and he's a Roman soldier. And so vivid. What he's wearing, which is armor, even if we produced it today, you would look at it, it's like the breastplate is almost these little circular things with like little, and they almost look like feathers, but they're not super light. And then these beautiful like fabric that comes off the arms and off the bottom. It's like this almost indescribable burgundy red. And he has sandals, and he has this, like, I want to call it a spear, but that doesn't exactly feel right. And he's looking at me, and there's so much anger, anguish. That was the word, it's my third read through on this. It's hard to describe the tumultuous feelings coming off this individual. And I realize that it's because I'm dying, and he's angry that I'm leaving him. We're involved. He's about 10 to 15 years younger than I am. And I went to the Edgar Cayce Institute, I'll link that, when I was living in Virginia. And didn't know what it was, had my aunt, who I love you dearly. It's all true, see? Say, oh, there's this institute that you live close to, you might want to take a look at it. And it's beautiful. It's not super trippy, super weird. The space, much like Yogananda Paramahansa, which we'll spend some time on that too, his institute in California, which is way more trippy, but still beautiful. The plots of land these people got are amazing. And I had booked a session for a friend of mine who had some really horrible things happen. Her husband passed away when she was pregnant. So we go for the massages and then these sessions with this counselor, who I call Betty, not Betty. Because we get out, we're sitting, we're watching the Atlantic, beautiful, like a event horizon, almost, the way it's done. And she starts asking me again, I'm like, no, I don't know how she knew what she knew. So she's Betty, not Betty. But if you ever have a chance to go to the Edgar Cayce and you're in Virginia Beach, do it. It's an amazing place. So I'm sitting and I'm describing this Roman memory burn to her. And it was probably the first time that I actually talked to someone, and I didn't have to explain anything. She just knew. It's almost like she was there, like we were revisiting the same scene. And we talked about a bunch of stuff. And so afterward, when we're wrapping up, she says, not now, sometime in the future when you think you're ready, unwrap that sheet and see what happens. I'm like, okay, that's rather strange. It just felt like a covering. And I don't know if it happened probably a year or two down the line, but I did. It's not hard to visit those memory burns again, or those visions or times in space and time. And the sheet unwound from me It went off my left leg. It soared into the air. It pierced this gentleman through the heart and then became a dove. And I drew out a triptych, which I would love to do in stained glass, which I'm trying to learn. And immediately, I knew that I was both of these people. And again, when I do that, I get little chills. Not only was I was both sides of this equation, and I was the equation. And I understood immediately that that is us all. We are the solution, we are the problem. We will have a chance to experience certain things from every angle. That's when I really became interested in past lives, and I read Many Lives, Many Masters. And then after that, recently in the last 6 months, I was in here meditating and kind of exploring time and space and what that means. And in an instant, I was like in a living picture again, and I call this one Soul Nursery. So I was definitely looking at something, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. Boy, is it. It's like this big, like almost planet with rings crashing into what was very definitely a soul maturation nursery. Not creepy like the Matrix or Pods or Body Snatchers or whatever. It was beautiful, horrible, so much emotion. And I didn't have to sit and read about what happened. I didn't have to, there was no learning. It's like, boom, download. And there was, I don't know if it was my higher self, I don't know, meditative state. It was, this is a time and place we keep. We bring people here. We don't have to say a word. You just sit and you look at this like a great art, right? But there's more movement. There's more, it's more virtual. You get war is bad. Anywhere, anytime, bad. We're going to talk a lot more about fractals, but different levels of war and what's happened in our universe and maybe universes. You don't have to say a word. You will do everything in your power to make sure that that doesn't happen again, whatever part you can play. But anyway, that was pretty amazing too. So there is a lot out there. No one person is right or wrong. There are a million different ways to wake up. There are a million different ways, billion, trillion, quadrillion, to go through this process. And I think that's interesting in science. And it's also interesting in this field. Everyone tries to say, do it this way, do it that way. You know what? Just do it. Pretty much like this, just do it. Start to investigate, start to explore. Okay, rather long one today. But as always, thank you for spending time with me. Have a blessed, blessed day. Go gently into the world, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Dhanyavad.